belong to you. I belong to you. Do just what you want. You're the one that tries.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be reviewing my Apex 40 Diamond Drop V2, probably one of my favorite boards. Yeah. Anyway, so let's start off with the cons, I guess. Cons. Obviously it has a rather small kicktail. It does have these PK nose guards, which actually do give a lot of pop. It also allows for more creativity when it comes to doing other tricks, because you can slide the tail around not worrying about it wearing down, which is really nice. That's actually quite a nice benefit, and it does give you a little extra pop. That being said, the kicktail, I had a thought while I'm editing. Anyway, so the wheelbase is similar to that of an old school freeride board or a modern day dancer. However, the size of the board is more like similar to that of a freestyle board, yet because the wheelbase is long, that's why it has a smaller kicktail. So of a board that's like 40 inches long, I would expect the wheelbase to be like 24 or 25 for a freestyle board, or even like 22 in some cases. I think the Strike has that as an option, but this one has like 27 or 28. Which is what you'd expect on like a 46-inch dancer. It is small. A lot of people, when they do freestyle, like to use a 50-degree base plate on their truck. I personally think it is best to use 43 degrees for me, as well as, well, I guess when you have a smaller kicktail, I'm gonna get techie. When you have a smaller kicktail and you have a higher degree base plate, it requires more force to push down the kicktail. But if you have a lower degree base plate, it requires less force to push down the kicktail. So when you have a short kicktail, even though the board might be really light, when it comes to flipping it, it might make it feel heavier even though it's not. And that's just a relation to the shortness of the kicktail. But you can fix that by putting on a lower degree base plate. Another thing that you can use to fix it is, I have like 60 something millimeter, I want to say like 63 probably right now. I don't think they came that way, but I've slid them down quite a lot. 63 millimeter wheels. And I actually prefer to use this wheel, which is a Ricta Chrome Cloud wheel. When a kicktail is small, similar to the base plate trick, it makes something that isn't necessarily heavy feel heavier. So if you use something that is lighter, you kind of balance out that weight. So smaller wheel. This is a Ricta Chrome Cloud. I can't talk. Ricta Chrome Cloud wheel. It is soft, but it does feel like a skateboard wheel, which is nice. That being said, when it comes to rolling over like cracks and curb thingies in the street, this might feel like a Lamborghini on a skateboard, but it doesn't feel great on a longboard. But it is perfect for freestyle, and I quite like it. So I tend to use this wheel a lot. And that's actually my favorite wheel for this board in general. Yeah, so that's the con, which is the fact that the kicktail is small. Another con is not really a con, it's more of a preference. So this board has a very unique shape to it, but overall the design is almost nostalgic to older designs that early 2000 longboards had, as opposed to like modern day longboards. So older freeride boards, big wheelbase, low to the ground, drop through, things like that. Whereas modern ones are more slalom downhill like. They have smaller wheelbases, and pretty much top mount is the way to go right now, as well as narrower trucks. This is a board that likes wide trucks, and it's also a long wheelbase. Yeah. So if you don't like long wheelbases and you prefer a more I guess modern rear ride board, then this might not be the board for you. Yeah, I did find that when I do if I'm trying to hold out a toe side slide, I have more success using like a 165 hanger. But as far as like heel side slides, holding them out, I didn't find much difference regardless of if the hanger was narrower or wider. But overall, I find that this board works best with a wider hanger. Yeah, that's my thoughts as far as like negative things go. This is a positive, but it can also be viewed as a negative. I'm gonna move on to the positive sides. The board has a drop. It's not a big drop, and in some cases it feels great, in some cases it feels bad, but it's really not as big or aggressive. Also, yes, I took off the grip tape in the center. That was for pure west, that's why. It's not that big of a drop, but I will say, and this is something that I like, while I find board slides to be the most fun on my Tantan board, this is one of those boards where, in this specific scenario, this one is best. And that is, I built myself a slappy curb in my driveway to do grinds. And because this board isn't necessarily like the lowest thing in the world, but that drop does give me enough clearance to where my board can grind on the curb without the wheels touching the ground, regardless of my wheel size, which is really, really nice. So I find that to be really good. Pros. Yeah, pros. This board flips like really, really, really well. Actually, I used to ride Apexes all the time when I was younger. I started out on a 34, jumped to a 37, 2011 model. And then I had an Apex 40 double concave for a hot minute. Anyway, when I hopped on this board, it felt like jumping right back into a very familiar scenario, so I was into that. So how it flips is really, really great. It has a very balanced feel, provided I do what I'm used to, which is lower degree base plate, and smaller wheels. As far as dancing goes, I don't find that it is the biggest platform or the most comfortable platform for dancing, but freestyle is great. Another thing that's pretty good is, no, this is not a drop through board, but it is a drop deck. Typically when boards have cutouts right about here, if you land too far over here, you might touch the wheel, and I haven't really had that issue with this board. I believe that is because it is not drop through mounted. Yeah, I will say, even though it is a top mount deck, it doesn't necessarily feel like a top mount deck. It doesn't have the leverage that you would find in a top mount deck, but it is a rather drifty board. I have grip tape on the bottom that is for flip tricks, like hand flip tricks, as well as when you have slide gloves on and you don't have grab rails and you want to do an early grab. Your fingers might slide off unless you cut off the fingers. So I use grip tape right there. It is very, very durable. I personally do not think that I could break this regardless of how often I try. And that might be like so good to a fault. And whereas like Original made a very durable board, which might provide someone a board for longer than they're actually willing to ride it, in which case they may not really need to replace it, which then takes away sales. So durable could be to a fault, just not for you. But yeah, let's see. Another pros, really fun. It's a pretty do anything board. I'm not gonna say that it's perfect for one thing, but I will say it does everything pretty darn good. While it is a board that does have flex, it doesn't feel like it ever gets in the way. It is very stable for downhill, even though it has a wider wheelbase and it does have flex. It doesn't really get in the way. If anything, it helps. As well as for flip tricks, when you land on the board, like I said previously on my Tan review, sometimes when I land on the Tan, I find that the flex almost bounces me off. I find that this is just enough flex to absorb the shock of your landing, but not enough to disrupt the landing at all, which is good. I have one more con, actually. I'm getting a little all over the place. Typically, when it comes to kickflips, like I said earlier, that's like one of my warm-up tricks. So I base a lot of things off kickflips. For a skateboard, flick off the nose. For a longboard, you either flick off the rails or a concave around here. Could be a wheel well, flare, could be whatever, really. Because the concave dips in right here, and I am the type of person that switches boards frequently. I often need a second to remember that the concave starts right here. It's like a pocket. So I have to position my foot different when I go to do kickflips on this board, which if you're only riding one board for a long time, that's not really a con. That's just something I thought of right then and there. But yeah, that's pretty much my thoughts on this board. Take that information as you will. And if you want to buy it. It's a great board. I quite like it. I also actually love it. This is probably my favorite board for 1 foot manual tricks. If you've seen any of my shorts or my reels on TikTok, Instagram, or even just the shorts feed on YouTube, you will see that I do a lot of 1 foot combination tricks. This pocket is very supportive for that type of trick. So yeah, that's pretty much it. As always, guys, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if there's a board that you want me to try, and I will talk to my sponsor and see if we can make it happen. And take care.